Welcome back to Behind the Book. Today, I have Alastair Hadley and Shapiro, co-founders of EQC Investment. On today's episode, we're talking about reflections on success. Let's hear more. I'm Heather Andrews, and on Behind the Book, we journey beyond the cover. On each episode, I dive deep into the minds of authors, unlocking the mysteries behind their literary creations. Discover the stories behind the book exclusively here with me. Welcome back to Behind the Book. We left you with a cliffhanger with Saj and Alastair the last episode. We're bringing you back to talk about turbulent waters and success. So when you wrote the chapter in Culture Revolution, you were doing the analogy between turbulent waters and radical success in your company. Would you like to share with us a little bit about what your sailing trip looked like and how it was a part of your story?
Well, no, absolutely, and thanks for having us back. After Radicle was acquired and the dust had settled, we decided to go on this sailing trip and sailing from Svalbard south to Iceland over to Greenland, which in itself just sounds really interesting. And during that time, we started to think about what we'd actually accomplished, because we accomplished a lot. And you know, we talk about success, 400% growth in 3 years, being recognized as one of the best managed companies in Canada. So it was easy to pick on specific things that you would define as success, but then we started to dive deeper because we were days at sea and started to look at why were we successful? What did we actually do to become so successful that we were able to sell and that we were able to go on this grand adventure? And that reflection of what we actually did between 2019 and 2022 became a vision for what we wanted to continue to try and do and get into the book itself and to put into that chapter.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
I can add that sailing for somebody who's new into sailing in the Arctic Circle, where there's no rescue, and if you fall in the water, as the captain told us, bye. So your life is really in the hands of other people that are much more capable, because my nightmare wasn't actually falling over. I was waking up on my own on the ship knowing I don't know how to sail. Like, I don't know how to or something happens to somebody who's much more competent. So it wasn't a mere literary metaphor. It was real life of survival and putting trust into the hands of others. So from that perspective, there's lots of days where you're not watching movies, you're not on the internet, you're actually sailing and you're visiting with others, or you're sleeping.
Yeah.
And there's lots of moments where we would talk about the fact that there's a lot of parallels, i.e. the systems that we were using, depending on others to sail, is exactly as the same as the experience of being an entrepreneur. Right up there with, like, there's days, and I've got a picture of me holding on to the helm, and the wind is in my hair, and it's sunny out, and it's just like you're on cloud nine. And there's pictures of me running to the back with the bucket because it's a really bad day. And both of those extremes are very typical of an entrepreneur in their experience, probably on the same day some days. Yeah. And we've certainly had days like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that helped us see and clarify what it is that we accomplished. So the metaphor for sailing isn't just a literary metaphor, it's actually very much real, because being on a boat with no experience in harsh conditions like the Arctic Circle means that if something happens to a more competent crew, or I fall into the water, that's the end. So I'm really putting my life into the hands of others and trusting the team that's around me to get through. And apart from that, there's also the highs and the lows of sailing, which you could be one day holding on to the helm with the wind blowing in your hair and the sun is out and it feels great, literally like you're flying. And then other days where you're running into the back with the bucket and you can't handle anything at all. So and those are those extremes are very much the same as you would have as an entrepreneur, and some of those days were all the same day. So I think we learned a lot, but being on that boat and realizing some of these things helped us kind of be a little more, not just reminiscent, but analytical in the approach and what we had accomplished in the previous 5 years, because it wasn't, you didn't have so much time to kind of think about things in a way that we realized we've got a lot of wisdom that we've accumulated, and how can we share that? Because we don't want to be consultants, and we don't want to write a textbook and an HR book. We want to just share things in a very plain, easy to follow guidance, if you will, to help others follow and kind of pick up some of these pieces. So I think we realized it was almost like throwing a pebble into a pond, and you get all of these rings that come out. It was kind of like that, I think, is, we can share this, and we can share how we did this, and we're really looking forward to doing this again and again, because we feel like beyond the goal that we had at Radicle, which was, to make the earth a better place, but I think we want to make the lives of the people that are working on a day-to-day basis better.
Absolutely, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And your sailing trip sounds like a whole other book, and all of the things that you did in Radicle sounds like a whole other book. So yeah, I love that. And that took you into writing the story. So in reflection mode, as we're on behind the book, what was your biggest transformation in writing this chapter? Alastair, would you like to go first?
The biggest transformation writing the chapter. I think it's really the recognition that we have a really important story to tell.
You do.
And I think that the lessons that we learned are worth sharing.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's easy to downplay what one did and say, oh, it was luck, or is it, to be Canadian. But no, our journey was a really incredible journey, and I was fortunate to have fantastic people to help guide me on that journey. And I think that's the critical thing out of this, is it took a team, and we had a big team, right? It was the entire team, and we were able to create that environment. So it's possible to scale and grow and build inspirational workspaces or workplaces, and I think that's what we want to do.
I'll add to that. I think there was an external journey that we took, as through with the company and growing it, the same as the sailing one. But on the sailing trip, as we realized that, we also came to the realization that we grew internally. So we grew as people ourselves as we went through this experience, and we were very different people 5 years later than the people that we were that came in, and brought the boat into harbor. So there's a lot of the values that we had created, the empathy, the together, the feeling of togetherness as a team, and growing this intangible, if you will, lightning in a bottle, was something that it did take a team to create. But we were very different people from the moment the starter pistol went off till the moment we were done. There's a lot of growth, and I think a lot of that is things that we're trying to share in the book.
Absolutely, I love that.
And I think too, it's not just that we grew from it. When we, really implemented the cultural revolution at Radicle, the other cultural zealots that joined us in that, right? The leadership team, everybody changed for the better in being able to be more empathetic, have more humility, to have a higher degree of emotional intelligence, and to be able to have really difficult conversations, not coming into it from a place of conflict, but a place of resolution. But everybody was better as a result of the culture that we built.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And so basically, to sum it up, the biggest realization that you two had was all the experiences back looking at Radicle and the experiences there and the sailing trip. But in sharing the story, you realized that you had more knowledge probably than what you realized that you had to share, and that it's worth sharing.
That's a great way to phrase it. Yes.
Perfect. Or another way to do it is, we're not done yet.
Excellent. I love it. It's great. Good. And just as we wrap up, just my last question for this episode will be, what is the one wish that you have for the reader that you want them to take away from your story in this book? So Alastair, I'll let you go first.
I think the one wish is that they read it and go, wow, there there is a better future.
Perfect.
We just have to invest to get there.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Saj?
I completely agree. I hope that they read it and approach it with curiosity, which is how we tended to operate,
Perfect.
and are willing to roll up their sleeves and uncover some of these key benefits that they have right in their companies.
Excellent. Thank you. And where can our readers, our listeners get a hold of you?
eqcinvestment.com.
So as you heard today, everyone has a story in them. They just might not realize it. So from behind the book, we'll see you on the next episode where we do a little bit deeper dive with Saj and Alastair into how they really made Radicle success. Thanks again. It's been a literary voyage here on Behind the Book. My sincerest thanks to our featured authors for letting us peek behind the curtain. I'm Heather Andrews, urging you to keep exploring the vast universe of literature. Until our next chapter, happy reading.